Great to have you here, folks. Welcome to this video. And today I'll be giving my long-term review of the first Dr.GLOSSY products. This was the first batch here. You might remember it hasn't been a full year yet, but quite some time has passed. Many months, and I've been able to test it repeatedly. Of course, I didn't use it with every wash because I also have many other products here to test for you. But still, I can give you enough feedback on whether what Andreas and I suspected before the release, whether what we found in the test has been confirmed after the long-term experience, or if we were completely wrong. And we'll start right away with the bucket, beginning at the top. The lid. You see, I chose the completely colorful variant. I got it for testing for all of us so I could try it out. And here I decided on all the colors, so you can see all the colors in the video. The lid works. I showed you it's not necessarily leak-proof. That means if the bucket tips over, it will be tricky. So this is not a tip-over protection. When this is filled and it sloshes back and forth, nothing spilled out of the bucket for me. So that works, and that's exactly enough for me. So it definitely works reliably. We'll get to that part in a moment because, you know, that was the biggest point of criticism before, the bottle holder. Here I must clearly repeat my conclusion because the transport of the bottles works really well. And I have really used it extensively. And I also found it really good that I could store it here in the bucket, of course without water in it beforehand, obviously. And with that, I had everything compactly in the trunk. It works really nicely. I see that as a great added value. Especially you take it out at the self-service box and place it at the box. They are sometimes dirty, wet. You know, when there's a real mud battle sometimes, you end up placing the products in the dirt or on the pressure washer station if there even is one, like in my case at my box. And that's why I thought it was cool. You could just place it like that. Of course, the base stands a bit in the dirt, sure, but the bottles aren't in the dirt. And I used it more as a place to set things down. But I hardly ever used the second big feature. And that's what it was about here. With the topic of placing the stand base, hooking it in so that the bucket is higher. And exactly that was my first impression that for me, in reality, it wasn't a huge added value for me because this added value is so minimal for me. It really only benefits me if I'm working on the roof and maybe in the upper third of the vehicle. That means if I'm standing next to the vehicle and washing it, that I can just hear. I can show the original height if you see it like this again. You also saw in the videos that I have to go down here, so to speak. But I still have to bend down unless you are over 1.30 meters tall or something like that. That means the stand provides a bit of extra height, but it's not so much that I don't have to bend down anymore when washing the upper part of the vehicle. The next point is when you're washing under the vehicle, you do it like this and that because you won't always be reaching up here in a bent position and twisting your arm. That means you take it apart, place the bucket underneath, and thus this part is no longer really a useful tool for that moment. For me, the tool is more for transporting bottles, for storing at the steam box, for taking out, and so on. But as a platform, it didn't provide me with any added value at all. It was really negligible, but you can use this here however you like. Let's leave this part outside for now. Let's move on to the dirt trap. I need to report a bit longer on this. At this point, there is already a version 2, and it definitely seems to work better. You will also find a test video from me on this in the future. I've been testing car care products since 2016. It started very small on the roadside, and now I've worked through various rental halls and built my own hall, and so on. So it has really developed massively, especially now in this small bubble, just in this small scene that I'm in. And I can also quickly tell when I see the component whether it works or not. And we already had some doubts before the release about whether it would really work. And it became apparent right from the first test that it was an absolute, and I say this honestly as it is, it was an absolute disaster. However, I must clearly point out one thing. I watched JP's video again, I think the second one. And he said that the topic, well, I'll link it below again with the correct timestamp. I can't quote it exactly, but it seemed to me like the topic wasn't that relevant to him. He didn't really pay much attention to it. But I must clearly say, if I put so much thought into all these products and also have a team behind it, or rather, GP didn't spend the whole day working on and developing this, but his team took over and he essentially approved and checked it again. But if he already says that it wasn't really relevant to him or he didn't really have it in view, that it's so important because he thinks it's a dirt sieve, where the dirt falls through and stays at the bottom. The problem, however, is that while the dirt does fall through, nothing stays at the bottom when you're working in this bucket because we're not using this sieve to separate large stones and remove small stones below, but we have water in this container. And that should be logical. It's a bucket and the dirt is supposed to separate from the water, so to speak, in the area. That means the dirt should fall down here. And when we wash out our glove in here or take new shampoo water or wipe off the dirt, for example, it should fall down and not be stirred up again. And there are turbulences created inside here. That means now comes the point of criticism from my side. Why put so much effort into this, which is super cool? But why did they completely stop engaging with it here or never really engage with it properly? And why did no one on the team ever really engage with it properly? Because someone who has anything to do with vehicle care could have taken a look at this part and said, well, somehow, guys, I tried it out at the self-service box because at the latest, if you had tried this out beforehand, you would have immediately noticed that it doesn't work like that at all. That means I can only speculate. I don't know where the problem is there. Was it not checked? Was it not important? Did it just say dirt sieve and it looks like a sieve is a sieve, we put it in? Why do you bring something like this to the market when there are already comparison models on the market? Because the dirt trap is not large in terms of design, unlike the other models available on the market, because they are all round and are placed at the bottom of the bucket. They have a funnel shape so that the dirt can fall through and not get back up. That's the first thing. That means the funnel shape, which is in the second variant, has been around for years, many, many years. And we know this from the Cyclone dirt trap by Chemical Guys. We know it from the Detail Guards, the Dirt Lock, and from many other dirt traps that work exactly with this same principle. Why not use existing models? Take a look at them, see how they work, and why not just take the bucket with the dirt trap, a second bucket, and a competitor's dirt trap in quotes, and test whether it works the same. And you can feel free to write down below what really went wrong there, because this really went completely wrong here. And yes, don't come at me with everyone makes mistakes, that's all true. But here it seems to me as if no one ever really questioned or tested it properly. That's my personal opinion, my assumption. Feel free to tear me apart in the comments and insult me. I say it like it is and what I think, but now the V is coming out or is already out by the time you might see this video. And it is supposed to work significantly better. And my final question is, why not from the very beginning? Because this could have been completely avoided. And I would really like to know at what point or who approved this. Who said, sure, great piece, let's do it. I would really be interested in that. And next we come to the microfiber products and I have to draw a very clear conclusion here. Let's start with the glass cloth. Nothing that reinvents the wheel or works better than other cleaning cloths. It's a very simple standard glass cleaning cloth and that's how it looks. The disadvantage with white products is simply that they discolor over time. Do you see this here? But it's just a cleaning cloth, so eventually it won't be as nice and white as before. This applies to all white cleaning tools very, very clearly. But the advantage is, and this will also be a topic in the next videos, white always shows the truth, as I always say in car care. That means when you go over a surface with a white cloth, you can really see the dirt residues best. Just like with the glass cloth, insects and so on. If this fiber were black, you wouldn't be able to see at all whether you're removing any dirt. You only see it on the surface, but whether everything is really perfectly gone, you only see when you go over it with a white cloth and, so to speak, clean it again. And if the cloth then stays white, you can be quite sure that the surface is clean. Fortunately, not with a black fiber here. Actually, the worst thing you can do is use a black fiber with any cleaning products. That's why this is an absolutely solid product, completely standard. You can decide if it's worth the money for you. There are also different price ranges, but this is really nothing particularly special. But it works. And with the glove, I also have a small point, and this has been confirmed repeatedly. The shape is just, I'll say it, not humanly ergonomic, because no one with a normal hand has a hand shape like that. Or maybe someone had an accident and their fingers were sewn back on differently or something. Just kidding. But it's not ergonomic. And especially when the glove is wet, the seams inside rub against the spots where your fingers rest. It all depends on what size hand you have. I then used the following technique. I left out one finger. Specifically, I used this one, and this one. I leave this one out, you can also cut it off. Please don't do it. And here I have my thumb in, then I have this normal one. Look, then I have an almost normal hand shape, but this here is practically the unwanted finger that somehow grew along. That's why the ergonomics of this glove aren't really nice. I mentioned the white fiber from the beginning, that's how it has to be, as just explained. Otherwise, it is solidly made, has definitely done its job, it's a bit large, but even there, that's not a negative point. Here it's just the ergonomics where I say they should have brought the four fingers closer together and this one a bit to the side. Then this point would also be positive. Let's move on to the drying towel, and as my JP mentioned, I believe in one of the last videos, this is the most popular product. Someone who is just diving into car care with these products will get the best and most current phase available, especially with the drying towel. And now we come to the important point. JP also mentioned, I believe that this really has no real competition here, that it's just so extremely strong and good. But I have to clearly say, I completely disagree because this fiber has been around for years. Initially, there were towels that were one-sided with this fiber and smooth on the back. And then it was sewn together double or so to speak folded and sewn. Here, like with this towel, the edges and then also the middle strip. So these towels have been around for ages. In my opinion, this towel doesn't perform any better than all other twisted pile towels in this area with the same size and the same GSM number, because there are also towels with even longer embedded fibers, which then have even more GSM, like 1,600, 1,800, and whatever else there is. I'm not really a huge fan of that because I prefer the range of 1,300 to 1,400, as otherwise the towel just becomes too heavy over time, and it's simply easier to handle when it doesn't have such an extreme GSM. It also always depends on whether your vehicle is sealed and how much water you need to absorb with it. So, just like with the glass towel, for me it's a completely normal, standard one. It always sounds harsh, but that's just how it is. It's just the complete standard. A completely normal, twisted pearl drying towel, which doesn't do anything better than those already on the market. And again, you can compare prices. And for example, if purple isn't really my color, you will find a variety of these towels on the market in all colors and sizes. From 40, 40, 60, 40, 80, 50, 90, 60, everything is available, even in XXL. Let's move on to the wheel brush. I have to say, very clearly here, I'm really extremely deep into this topic. This might sound a bit strange to some, not that you would introduce it somewhere, but in my opinion, this part is the best when it comes to wheel brushes, especially if you know all the other products and have tested them all. We have a huge wheel brush chart where you can check exactly if the corresponding wheel brushes fit into the gaps of your rims. Because now comes the next point. Many of JPS's viewers, or even here, might have one or another collector's vehicle or even a regular daily vehicle, which is still equipped with nice rims or sometimes has a larger brake system or whatever. And in many cases, the space between the brake caliper or brake system and the rim becomes really tight, or there are many spokes with many small gaps. And in this case, when you look at the ranking, this brush is not necessarily very advantageous because so many factors come together here, but I'll really try to keep it brief. So the overall length of the brush is really much too short. If you want to reach the rear areas of the rims with this and clean something, you end up hitting the rim with the plastic and even partially with the hook and your hands because you can't reach far enough into the back region. If you just want to clean the front of the spokes, you can do that with this tool, but you could also use a glove or a regular microfiber cloth. The wheel brush is supposed to reach deep into the rim and clean properly. That means the overall length is too short, because this here is already the maximum length. This here is the short version and it's for bicycle rims. With this, you can hardly do anything effectively on vehicles, especially in the darker areas. And what I've never done with such a wheel brush is to clean the tire sidewall with it to prepare it, for example, for tire care. I've never done that because I use a brush or a scrub pad, which works 1,000 times better. I also don't want to run the fibers along this extremely dirty and greasy rubber on the side, especially if it hasn't been cleaned for a long time. But I've never used a wheel brush for that, and I won't use it either, because that brings us back to the topic of wheel cleaning. The head here at the front is also much too thick. So I've already had difficulties with my vehicles, and I've really had several to choose from, and you've seen the pictures again. It is really difficult. And if you do manage to get through somewhere, you end up hitting everything with all the stuff. There's a lack of a shield at the front, either to keep the chemicals away from your hand as much as possible. It's best to wear gloves or to protect your fingers when working on the wheel so you don't hit the wheel with your hand. That was also a point where I say, for me, some of you have referred to it as a toilet brush. I'm staying out of it, but for optimal wheel cleaning, I have to clearly say, here one could have taken a bit of inspiration from the many competing products, just like everyone does. And one could have also asked a few people from their own community, what do you expect from such a product? The team itself could have also asked friends or acquaintances who really washes their car regularly and uses which products and what do you find cool about them and what would you improve? That's how I would approach products that I would bring to the market. One of the products that really completely misses reality and good performance. And above all, I think the individual price is also extremely high for this thing. What's pretty cool is the little hook to hang it somewhere. You can do that. I definitely also mentioned positively the handle is okay, but the rest is just simple. No, I'm sorry. And now we come to the 4 chemical products that have just been released at the beginning. There are more to come. There will definitely be tests for those as well. If you would like to see that, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Then you'll definitely get honest, open feedback on the products. And I will also pit it against other products. The items, I say now, are filled by Sonax, or the formula is from Sonax or in coordination with Sonax to 99.9%. Sonax has, so to speak, manufactured it. There is no official confirmation, but all indications point to it, which is not a problem for me either. And you have to make a bit of a distinction there. A glass cleaner, if it cleans the window streak free, it works. There are no other glass cleaners on the market where you can say one is 20 times better than the other, or one only uses 1 milliliter while the other requires 500 milliliters for a window. That's complete nonsense. Therefore, a glass cleaner works and does what it's supposed to do. But here there are really complete price alternatives. There will also be a video about this where you can get a significantly better price with a much larger quantity. Therefore, a glass cleaner works, does its job, but it's also not that difficult with glass cleaner. And if we assume that Donax filled this or created the formula in collaboration with them, there's certainly a lot of Sonax window cleaner in here. Then we come to the next product. Also shampoo, in terms of scents. I also have 2 scents that remind me very much of Sonax products. And I say this quite openly as it is. This one also has a really pleasant scent. Shampoo does its job. You should use 100 milliliters in 20 liters of water here. That's a bit high in terms of dosage for a large bucket. So normally 25 to 50 milliliters should be enough. But just try it out, depending on how dirty the vehicle is. They always assume that it is really heavily soiled, and that's why they provide the maximum dosage. It works too, does its job. There are shampoos like sand on the beach. This one doesn't make anything better or worse than other shampoos either. Again, we are dealing with standard products. It's just quite normal. Then we come to the pre-party pre-cleaner. It is ready to use. I also had it in the insect remover test for comparison. I wasn't really impressed with its cleaning performance. That's my personal opinion. I found it too weak. The problem is, if I have to repeat the procedure because the insects didn't come off satisfactorily, I have to use even more product. And that's why I have to say, for me, the cleaning performance was too low. The spray is fine. I think in terms of scent, it was also a product that can be found from the Sonax region. In terms of scent, it's definitely okay for light dirt. But if you've really been on vacation here for a week or so and have accumulated a lot of insects, I think you might not always get everything off immediately with this. And that would be too little for me. And again, the price is simply too high. Then we come to the wheel cleaner, and you can see here the bottle has deformed. But now I have to say very clearly, openly and honestly here, I've seen the same with other bottles. When wheel cleaner bottles stand for a while with this content inside, it happens with almost all bottles. I'll look for a comparison. Do you see? And I've already found one here from Gustav. And this is a phenomenon that can definitely occur. You've definitely experienced it before if you're involved in vehicle care. Either it creates a vacuum, which somehow relates to the formula, and bam, it bends back again. However, it can happen that the bottles do not return to their original shape. Now you might say, yes, there's a vacuum here too. You just need to open the bottle at the top and it will go back. And you're telling us that this is permanent, so to speak. And you can see here, it is completely permanent. Even if I press it back and reshape it, the bottle still indents on the side. It's also one of those things, it's not a big deal. I can still use the product without any issues. It can be sprayed absolutely without problems and works. What I've also noticed with the wheel booster is that its scent becomes increasingly stronger over time. When I smell the bottle today, it really smells significantly stronger than at the beginning. I have a bit of a feeling that the fragrance in here, which might soften it a bit if there is something like that in here. But when you spray it, at first you think, okay, it smells like wheel cleaner, but it's still okay. But when you spray it today, you can definitely tell that the stink bomb comes through. Just my feedback, which might also help the team to check that area again. And folks, let me tell you one thing. Even though he always said, yes, Sebastian, but they don't care about your opinion or anything. I do believe that some people do check it out. We're back to the topic of this decorative sand and so on. It suddenly appeared in JPM videos as well. And with that, I hope I could give you a little insight into how I feel about these things after a longer period. If you still believe that my statements here are completely wrong and this is the coolest stuff out there, that this is the best wheel brush on the market, these are the best cleaners at the best price, and this is the best glove, the best bucket, and the best dirt trap, then feel free to write it down below. That's absolutely no problem. But also remain respectful towards JP. This applies to those who regularly watch my channel and also remain respectful towards me. You can always write criticism if you say, Sebastian, I see it completely differently. The fan mail is super cool. I bought 3, then that's how it is. But insults and so on, I will completely filter out in the comments forever. I'm saying this openly and honestly, just as it is. But if you have a different opinion about the products here, feel free to write it down below, because I read every comment and also check how it aligns with my experience. Does it match, or do I see it completely differently? And that's what's exciting, and that's what matters. The issue of the dirt trap is also off the table now. I firmly assume that the new version works significantly better. JP has also shown it. And with that, as I say, it's a nice overall package. The whole part is color adjustable just the way you want it. I believe the accessories won't change that quickly either. I really have to say, in the field of chemistry, in this combination of volume, price, and performance, there are definitely much, much better products. And also with these items, because we know with the drying towel standard goods, you might still look to find other colors also with the glass cloth. But when it comes to the wheel brush and gloves, especially with the wheel brush, there are completely different calibers. And if you want to see them, definitely subscribe to the channel here. Thank you very, very much. I hope I wasn't too harsh, too mean. I hope you go easy on me. Also, the fanboys out there, don't immediately start criticizing me. And if you want to do it, then just do it, because nowadays letting off a little steam can be good for some people. Until then, thank you for watching. Bye, folks.